Dr. Al and I have become good friends over the last year. Dr. Al's a psychologist, and he focuses on living life in the rare disease space, and he's been at his work for a very long time. But we had a conversation that we've kind of run in parallel circles for a couple of decades, and we were amazed that our paths never crossed. But we were very glad that they did cross, and then we started speaking with each other on a regular basis. He's a huge fan of jazz music. I'm a huge fan of jazz music. We bonded over music. Unfortunately, he's a Philadelphia Eagles fan, and I'm a New England Patriots fan. So I did congratulate him on his second little ring, and I said, when you can fill up one hand like we can in New England, we'll talk again. But when Dr. Al started working with the community and the adults with Duchenne and Becker, I've had him come to a couple of our online meetings, and we've really begun to unpack some great topics of the challenges of living with a rare disease. So we asked Dr. Al to come and speak with us this morning at this conference, and I think you're going to really enjoy his talk. I am very, very pleased to give you Dr. Al Freedman. Dr. Al, thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for the honor of being here. Thank you, Pat. Thanks to the other Pat and the leadership of PPMD for the privilege of sharing the weekend with all of you. I did change the title slightly. The years go by, and I realized that it's 30 years of lessons learned in rare disease. Sorry for that discrepancy between your program and the slide. You may be wondering who I am and what led me here and who led me here. Yes, you may have heard I'm a practicing psychologist, as Pat said, and I specialize in supporting the psychological needs and social emotional needs of patients and families affected by rare disease throughout the United States and in other countries too. I'm privileged in my work every day to provide individual counseling sessions, therapy sessions to rare disease patients, caregivers, newly diagnosed families, and families who are bereaved. I'm privileged to facilitate many support groups around the country and around the world, now many online, about 10 a month, with a range of rare disease organizations and patients. I'm privileged to provide consultation to rare disease advocacy groups like yours to help provide programming, design and implement programming to support psychological needs of our families. And as a consultant to industry, the good people who are working hard to find treatments for the conditions that our families have. So I have a lot of experience professionally, but the other reason I'm here is I'm a dad. I'm actually one of you. And I come to this talk today with a great deal of respect for the challenges you face and a great deal of humility because I too have been affected personally by rare disease and by neuromuscular disease. And although I learned a lot in grad school at the University of Wisconsin, and I have a PhD in counseling psychology, which certainly comes in handy, the guy on the left on the screen there is my son, Jack. Jack was born 30 years ago, April 23rd, 1995, in Madison, Wisconsin, when I was finishing my doctorate. Born healthy, 8 pounds, 8 ounces, first child. 6 months later, we went to the pediatrician for a basic checkup. And the pediatrician noticed Jack wasn't sitting up and wasn't rolling over. And within the next 4 days, we received a diagnosis of spinal muscular atrophy, SMA, another neuromuscular disease. And at the time, there were no treatments for SMA, and Jack was given 1 year to live. Thankfully, baby Jack didn't fully cooperate with his prognosis. Baby Jack grew up and lived to the age of 26. He was with us till October of 2021. And I feel very blessed to have been his dad for so long. And as I do my work every day, he's keeping me honest. He's the real professor. He's right here on my shoulder as I stand before you today. And along the way, these 30 years, I've learned a lot of lessons from Jack and from so many other rare disease affected patients and families. And a symbol of my professional work is the photo on the right, one of the support groups that I've been privileged to facilitate for our SMA community, where I'll be next weekend in Anaheim, California, doing this again. So between my professional work and Professor Jack, I'm going to take you on a journey today with about 10 lessons that I've learned along the way at the core, at the heart of my experience. And my journey, and so many of the others I've seen and are part of, move from a place of fear to a place of hope and ultimately to a place of love. So I'm going to go through that journey of mine and so many others in 10 lessons and hopefully in the next 40 minutes. That's a lot to capture, but I'm going to do my best. And the first lesson that I've learned along the way is that the diagnosis of a rare disease is a trauma. It was for me, and it is for every family that I support professionally. It was Election Day 1995, November 7th, when we learned that Jack was affected by SMA. That day, for all of us who are affected by neuromuscular disease, is burned into our soul. It's a day we don't forget. I remember the sounds, the smells, the doctor in the room, our families, and trying to make sense of a situation that felt very senseless. I felt that I'd been launched into the twilight zone all of a sudden. One day we had a healthy baby, and 4 days later, a baby who wasn't going to live past the age of 2. It's a very disorienting experience. It was for me, brand new psychologist. I needed a psychologist very quickly. It takes time to adjust to the new world we find ourselves in, the new life that we have. There's the life we had before a diagnosis of a neuromuscular disease and the life we have after. It's a very difficult transition to make. And if you're here with a newly diagnosed child, I've been where you've been, I've sat where you sat, and I'll be welcoming the new members of our SMA club to the conference next weekend for our newly diagnosed session. I'm often asked as a psychologist the question, Dr. Al, is this normal? Is it normal that I can't sleep at night? Is it normal that I'm crying all the time? Is it normal that my mind is playing tricks on me? And the answer, 99% of the time, is yes. You're having a normal reaction to a very unusual set of stressors. Myself, I was driving 40 miles an hour in the highway, afraid I would get in a car accident. This could happen to my baby. Something else is going to happen. I was afraid to light the fireplace in the home we were renting during my psychology internship. Thought I'd burn the house down. When we adopted a baby girl, I didn't believe she was going to keep walking. Maybe 4 or 5 years in, well, this baby is going to walk. So we all, in the trauma of a diagnosis, have to make a major adjustment. I don't have many photographs from that period of time. It wasn't a happy time. That's a lot younger version of me. Jack's on my lap, very, very happy. You can tell how old this picture is by the Macintosh computer, the old one-piece Macintosh computer. And I was just trying to get by every day, trying to figure out, how am I going to do this? It's going to be impossible to lose a child. But somehow, we make our way. Lesson number 1, diagnosis is a trauma. Once we get our feet under us, we find ourselves living with a lot of uncertainty. I can tell you from my professional work, I'm seeing families affected by rare diseases of all kinds, dozens. And no matter what the disease is, no matter what the culture is, no matter what the country is, every single family affected by rare disease lives with uncertainty. There's the existential level of uncertainty. In therapy sessions, my clients struggle with their place in the world. What does this mean for me? Why me? How long will I live? Or how long will my child live? How will I make my way? And what does this mean? Big picture, existential uncertainty. And then there's a day-to-day uncertainty. For me, it was 3 days of clothes in a suitcase and with a toothbrush in the back of my car because we never knew when we'd end up in the pediatric intensive care unit. We spent 350 nights over those 26 years with Jack in the hospital. It was uncertainty about, will the night nurse who takes care of Jack show up at 7 o'clock for the night shift on Tuesday? Because if she didn't come, I was a nurse. Will the cold that Jack got, the little sniffles, the little cough, turn into nothing or turn into something that could be life-threatening? That was my version of uncertainty, day-to-day uncertainty about the wheelchair, about the van, all the things that many of you are contending with now. I spent 26 years with that uncertainty. This is an image from Jack's first birthday party, which I'm thankful we had. We wondered what we should do when Jack turned 1 because we thought this would be his only birthday party. And thankfully, a social worker encouraged us to have this party and invite our family. That uncertainty was in the room, but Jack had a great time, had a cake, had presents, center of attention, and then we had the second birthday and the third and the fourth, and we found ourselves in a situation that we didn't expect with many more years than we thought. But the cloud of uncertainty stays with us when we have a rare disease and a family member with a life-threatening situation. Where do we find hope when we're not offered much? This is lesson number 3. And what I've learned in my 30 years is that when you hang around people who are hopeful, you become more hopeful. Hope breeds hope. It's a scarce commodity early on. Early on, I read newsletters from our Families of SMA group, now Cure SMA, and one of the letters was written by this woman. Her name was June Price. She said, "Dear parents, I know the diagnosis of SMA is devastating to you and your family. My parents received that same news a long time ago. When I was 2, they said I'd live till 4, and when I was 4, they said I'd live till 8, the doctors. And then when I was 8, the doctor said I'd live to 12. And my dad sat around waiting for me to die. I'm 48 years old. I have a partner, I have a job, I have a meaningful life, and my dad's been gone 20 years. So please stay in the present with your child," she wrote. And that letter really helped me. And so did other families who offered me hope within our community, just as I see here at this conference, as you offer hope to each other. Hope breeds hope. And we brought Jack, when our conference was in Milwaukee, to see June from when we lived in Madison. And June showed us her apartment and showed us how she lived her life. Jack was pretty worn out. That was the only picture we took that day. He wasn't all that excited by the end of the day, but we were so grateful for her support. These days, everybody calls me Dr. Al for advice. Back then, I called June Price. She offered hope. And the light went on for me sometime during that year. The light went on for me one day driving the car. Jack was in his car seat, and I thought to myself, after talking to June another time, that my job was to do everything I could to give Jack the best life I could, and that however long he'd live, I could look back and know that we did everything to give him a good life and a happy life, and we did. I'm grateful to June and to the other parents who role modeled for me what I try to role model for others along the way. Lesson number 4 here goes right into it. Hope leads to others who are part of community. We have lots of communities. We have our school communities, our work communities, our faith communities, our neighborhood communities. And we have to learn when we're affected by rare disease have to learn how to accept help. And when we accept help, we get stronger and the communities around us get stronger too. Whatever the community is, community strengthens and supports. This community is an example of a special community. All of you are members of a club you didn't choose to join, but we become extended family. Next weekend in Anaheim, I'll be at our conference. It's like a family reunion to me after 30 years. People who grown up together, we face challenges together, and people we count on. My very first conference, by the way, was in Las Vegas. This is the first time I've been back to Las Vegas since 30 years ago, a couple months after Jack was diagnosed. That was a surreal scene. I was still in trauma mode. It was at the MGM, and I really don't remember much about it. What I do remember was thinking to myself, well, if I don't go to the registration table and I don't get a name sticker, then maybe this will all go away. I had an instinct to go back to my room and not even sign in. So if you're feeling that way because it's your first conference, so did I. But I'm glad I did sign in, and I'm glad I did hang around that group, because I saw the kids racing their wheelchairs around the slot machines there in the casino. It was a little bit of a bizarre scene. These three little boys racing around the slot machines, and their mothers were chasing them and saying, "Slow down." And the boys were laughing their heads off, and they kept on going. And I looked at those boys and I thought, you know, if this could be Jack someday, that wouldn't be so bad. That community is part of my family now, and strengthens me, and we strengthen each other. And I'm privileged to be here as a guest in your community as I watch you strengthen and support each other. Next Thursday night, our meet and greet icebreaker is a wonderful thing. We have like 3,000 people coming between, it's 2 conferences, researchers, scientists, doctors, and families. And we all get together and for many years have a wheelchair race. And our children race against the famous scientists and doctors and researchers. And it's a wonderful way for us to be together and celebrate and to be connected. Never in 15 or 20 years has a child lost a wheelchair race to a scientist or a researcher. The children win every time. Community strengthens and supports, and professionally, this is what I'll be doing next Friday and Saturday. I've had the privilege of facilitating support groups for our kids and our adolescents for going on more than 20 years now. I co-facilitate with my friend Angela, who's hiding in the back corner of that photograph. She's a 4th grade teacher in Texas, and she has SMA, a wonderful role model for the children. Every year, the children, without their parents in the room, it's an unusual opportunity for them, talk about their lives and their experiences having neuromuscular disease. They ask me, "Dr. Al, how can we get our parents to stop worrying about us so much?" The girls give each other advice about how to go to a dance at middle school when you have a wheelchair. They give each other advice about how to handle awkward situations when adults talk over their heads thinking they have a cognitive problem when they only have a physical problem. These kids have taught me so much, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity. Your people, too, are teaching me now. Pat Motion's been generous enough to invite me to the PAC meetings. I'll be meeting with the guys this afternoon at 2. I'm really looking forward to it. I can't tell you how impressed I am by these young men and what a compliment it's been for me to join them and to hear their stories and to encourage them to share how they feel in the experience they're having. Community strengthens and supports. And one other, just a shout out here. My daughter, Kara, who did walk past the age of 5, is standing next to me. She's all grown up, 25 years old, wearing that orange shirt because she volunteers at our conference. I'm very proud of her. I thought she'd run as far away from all this as she could because it wasn't easy being Jack's sister all those years. She's working full time at the National Organization of Rare Disorders, NORD, in the Patient Registry Department. Very proud of Kara. And the wonderful volunteer on the far left in the orange shirt is now my fiance, Patty, who's here with me as we're traveling on our way to Cure SMA. Patty and I met 7 years ago at our conference. Patty has been volunteering in our child care room for 30 years, more than 30 years. So when she met me and she met Jack, she wasn't afraid of Jack. And Patty, I was reminded, volunteered at MDA camp way back in college. So when you see me around here this weekend, please say hi to Patty too. She's somewhere in the room. Community strengthens and community supports. Lesson number 5 of 10. Family and friends matter. And family and friends matter a lot. Everything begins and ends for all of us with our families. We need our families to support us. The intrusion of neuromuscular disease complicates our experience in our family. It becomes both wonderful and challenging. Family dynamics, marriages. I was married to Jack's mom for 20 years. Siblings, all very complicated, but all very wonderful. Friends matter. Who sticks with us when the chips are down? Who can we count on? Who makes us feel included? As we get older, our kids get older, friends become more complicated. And many of the patients I serve who are affected by rare disease and neuromuscular disease struggle with social opportunities as they get older. Friends and family matter a lot. This was taken, I'm not sure how many years ago, a few years ago. It's my father's side of the family. My daughter Kara, they're kneeling next to Jack. Jack in the center of the family, symbolically, and he really was and is center of our family. Everybody rallied around Jack, took his cues. My brother, I have one brother behind Jack, my parents next to him. My mom passed just a few months after Jack. My dad's 95 and living in Philadelphia, and also an Eagles fan. Family matters a lot. We need our families. We sometimes struggle with our families. We sometimes need to teach our families how to help us, our extended families. Friends. I love this image. It's the last group photograph taken at Jack's middle school. And same thing, at the center of the class, surrounded by kids who've included him, who valued him, and thankfully a school that included and valued Jack and allowed him to accomplish way more than anybody expected. Family and friends matter a lot. The sixth lesson I've learned along the way is we find ourselves in the healthcare system and we have a health issue. Doctors and nurses are people too. This slide really should be busier. I like to keep my slides simple. In my last life, I was a second grade teacher, so I keep things simple. But this slide should say doctors and nurses, physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech therapists, wheelchair repair people, assistive technology people, social workers. I could go on and on. They're all people too. And the one thing they all have in common is that we don't choose to have a neuromuscular disease. We don't make that choice. It's not what we chose. It's not what I chose for my son. It's not what you chose for your families. But doctors and nurses and all those other folks make a choice to get involved. And they could be doing a lot of other things. And we all know that we have no shot without people who make a choice to get involved, because it's too big a job for us to do by ourselves. The healthcare system is difficult for us to navigate. It's also difficult for the people who are providing care to our patients and families. They're working hard, good people, working under very difficult conditions, day after day, and in my son's case, sometimes at night in the intensive care unit. Nobody works harder than a nurse and a respiratory therapist at 2 o'clock in the morning in the intensive care unit. The PICU never sleeps. Doctors and nurses are people too, and the lesson I've learned along the way is that although it can be very frustrating to navigate the system and to find our team, and it's hard when our kids get older and we have to transition to the adult system that's not ready for them, everyone's doing the best they can, and it's our job to be grateful and appreciate the people who make the choice to get involved, because we didn't make that choice, but they are. Lesson number 6. You might know this guy. This is Dr. John Bransoma, a symbol of one of those doctors and nurses who are wonderful people. He's a pediatric neurologist at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, assumed Jack's care, and was with us at this on a Sunday afternoon at a fundraising event for Cure SMA on his own time, hanging out with Jack and hanging out with the other families because he cares. A symbol of a really good person and a really smart person, and you all know a lot of them too. He was with us when Jack passed. He came to Jack's memorial service and got up and spoke. These are very extraordinary people who we encounter and who choose to get involved. Doctors and nurses are people too, and mostly wonderful people. Lesson number 7. There's no health without mental health. Mental health is important too, just as important. But the attention to our mental health lags behind the attention to physical health and medical issues. And that's very understandable for all of us who are affected by neuromuscular disease. I'm a psychologist, and I can tell you that for 26 years, I didn't have time to talk about how I felt about any of this because I was busy keeping my kid alive. So for understandable reasons, mental health does lag behind. Because of the pandemic, a light has been shined on mental health. Rare disease folks are catching up with this idea. That's why I'm very, very busy. I'm lucky as a PhD psychologist, there's now a compact, so my license is good in 42 states. I'm seeing people all over the country remotely because of a change in licensure law. That's opened things up for me to serve more people. We all need our voices heard, our patients. This is another image from one of the Talk It Out sessions that I'll be leading next weekend with our SMA kids. I've learned as a psychologist that you don't need a psychologist to enhance your mental health necessarily. Sometimes what you need is each other. And when I've had the privilege of listening in on and facilitating these kinds of conversations, and the one I'll be having with your PAC guys at 2 o'clock today, and the ones that I had last week all over the country with groups, peer groups, people who have something very unusual in common, mental health, people lift each other up, and I'm a real proponent of being together in groups. Your community has suffered a number of losses recently, young men who've passed, and that's been felt by your guys in the PAC group. Our community lost kids, and still we lost a young woman yesterday. Loss is part of the experience, and we all need support to make sense of loss and to move forward from loss and to keep our heads high. It's not easy to do. As a psychologist, I'll tell you there are people who do need mental health treatment. Sometimes we have 2 problems, not 1, because there are people who are vulnerable to or genetically predisposed to anxiety or depression or other mental health issues unrelated to a rare disease. Sometimes therapists miss that because they only see a wheelchair and they assume 100% of the problem is the rare disease. Sometimes there are 2. So one of my jobs is sifting out how many problems are there and how are they contributing. People ask me as a psychologist, when should I come for help? You should come for help from a professional if your symptoms are interfering with your day-to-day functioning. I could talk a lot longer about all this, but I won't in the interest of time. I'm impressed by the number of sessions I saw on this program at your conference that include attention to mental health and psychosocial issues. You guys are well ahead of the game as I travel the country and other countries at conferences like this. This is an important lesson. Anything is possible. When my baby was diagnosed, we had 2 weeks of consultations and we heard about what wouldn't be possible. Your baby won't be able to sit up, he won't be able to walk, he won't be able to swallow food safely, he won't be able to go to school, or he's going to get sick and end up in the hospital or worse. He's not going to be able to talk clearly, he's not going to be able to blink and blink. And the doctors were doing their jobs, preparing us for the worst. And they weren't incorrect about all the challenges. It's important, I've learned along the way from my son and so many other folks like you, is that we need to focus on what is possible, what we can control, and what we can do, because a lot is possible. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine my son would live past the age of 2 based on his prognosis, much less finish high school, this is some kind of crazy trigonometry math, advanced math in high school that I couldn't even help him with. There's an eye gaze unit there. The camera at the bottom of that pad is aiming at my son's left eye, and he's banging out his math homework on a Texas Instruments calculator on that laptop. He had 3,000 Facebook friends. He had 2 part-time jobs. He went to camp, he swam in a pool. He was like the mayor of the town. For all those years, I felt like the dad of the mayor of our town. And I saw what was possible. And I'm incredibly humbled every time I encounter a person with a rare disease and see what they can do, what you can do, what we can do. Anything is possible. Which leads to the 9th lesson I've learned along the way. Scientific progress brings new hope and also new challenges. We've been fortunate in our SMA community to have 3 FDA-approved treatments. And if my son was born now, he'd be screened at birth and receive treatment. And some of our kids are walking without symptoms or with fewer symptoms. Science progress brings a lot of hope for our community. This is that same wheelchair race. I guess it's a year or 2 ago, and it may have been one of the first children who entered the real wheelchair race without a wheelchair. That gave us great joy and great hope as we moved together as a community, having lost so many other kids and having so many other kids struggling with wheelchairs and feeding tubes and ventilators. Along with the new hope come challenges. Challenges regarding access and cost and ethical issues. And I'm well aware that your community is facing challenges too, recently, along with the scientific progress. And my message to you in the face of these challenges is to stay together. I heard a man yesterday, I'm sorry I didn't catch his name, at the tail end of when I arrived here in town. He sat here and said, stay grounded. We need to stay grounded. Stay resolute, stay together, stay hopeful, and keep your eyes on the prize. That's my message on scientific progress and scientific challenges. I've seen extraordinary things in our community and some others with the progress that has been made. A challenge in our community, this is my son with a little guy named Shane back in the Philadelphia area at the same event that you saw the doctor. Shane has received, I think, 2 different treatments for SMA, and his journey is going to be much different than Jack's. The work and effort that we put in, our generation put in all those years ago, has led to a better quality of life for Shane. And although there are many unmet needs in our community and unmet needs in your community, the work and the importance of that work early on leads to something really beautiful that we're very proud of when we see these little guys do so well. And Shane and his parents became Jack's buddies at this event. And I'd come home and he'd be on a Zoom while they're eating their dinner. During COVID, they became friends. The point here is that we need to stick together, and as treatments evolve, we're still one community with different experiences. Scientific progress brings new hope and new challenges. This is my 10th and final lesson to share with you today. This one didn't come to me until maybe 5 years ago. I was probably 20 years into all this before I figured this one out, or at least how to articulate it. Having a rare disease is a really challenging and complicating experience. And I respect all the challenges you face. I come here with great humility just standing here in front of you today. But I discovered from my son and so many other people like him that a rare disease also may bring some unanticipated rare gifts. I'm going to go through a couple of them very quickly and wrap up. How many people do you know who can enter a room and without saying a word, everybody else's big problems get small really fast? Gift of perspective. I heard the group talking about this just before I came up here. Everybody else's big problems are our small problems. When the plane is late, I'm not the guy yelling at the person at the ticket window at the airport because the plane is late. That's not a big problem to me. Our situations offer us a gift of perspective. This is Jack's high school graduation. He drove his chair into this big arena. I love this image because all the other kids in his class are all washed out from the party the night before that he couldn't stay up to go to. And he's so excited. And when he drove his chair into the room, everybody's perspective shifted amongst the hundreds of people who were at that graduation. Rare disease offers us the gift of resilience. We get knocked down, we get back up. We get knocked down, we get back up. I've seen so many kids and adults affected by rare disease demonstrate extraordinary resilience. When my son came out of the hospital, when he was a little guy, after his first major hospitalization with that feeding tube in his nose, I thought he was too weak to get into his new chair. He was maybe 3. And he insisted on getting in his chair. He couldn't pick up blocks with his hands. He could knock them down with his chair. And I got him in his chair. I held my breath, hoping we wouldn't end up back in the PICU. He had been there like 10 days. He showed me his resilience. He knocked down those blocks 150 times, and I was the one who was tired and worn out at the end of that day. He was fine. Rare disease offers us the gift of creativity. We can't do things the way everybody else does. We have to adapt. We have to find other people who will adapt with us. We have to think out of the box. We have to do things new ways. Rare disease forces creativity, and some beautiful things can happen when we're creative. I know a lot of kids here go to MDA camp and other camps. Jack went to a camp in Pennsylvania that was for ventilator-dependent kids, and because of the out-of-the-box thinking and creativity of a lot of professionals who volunteer at this camp, they didn't tell us when we signed the consent forms for camp that Jack would come back with pictures of him going down a zip line with his ventilator. The ventilator company wanted to put him in an ad to prove that their ventilator was portable. Gave new meaning to portability. Rare disease offers us the gift of creativity. Rare disease offers us the gift of compassion. My son and so many other people affected by a rare disease, especially kids, are magnets to open-hearted, compassionate people. People who we wouldn't encounter otherwise. Again, we don't choose rare disease, but other people choose to help us. This is Nurse Stacy, a home care nurse who was part of Jack's life for 9 years. 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., every Tuesday, every Friday, every Saturday, sometimes Thursday and Friday. And if it was Thanksgiving or if it was Christmas on the night that Stacy was scheduled, she'd be there. I asked her one year, Thanksgiving, are you going to be working on Thanksgiving, Stacy? She said, Jack can't take a vacation from his SMA, so I shouldn't take a vacation from him. Jack drew to his life open-hearted, compassionate people like Stacy. And those of you who are in the room who are not affected by muscular dystrophy or a family member, thank you. Thank you again for making the choice. Whether you're a medical professional, another type of professional, an industry partner, you're making a choice to get involved. You could be doing other things. Nurse Stacy could have been doing other things. She didn't make a lot of money. There was not a lot of fanfare at 2 o'clock in the morning when she's by herself in the house. Rare disease offers us that gift of compassion. Rare disease offers us the gift of connection. You folks feel very connected to each other. I felt last night in that room a large, palpable sense of strength as we lift each other up. We have connection between us in this very rare and unusual situation. This is the same camp, the ventilator camp, that Pennsylvania Vent Camp, it's called, where Jack went down that zip line. These are his buddies, part of the group that was at the camp with him, and the volunteers, nurses and volunteers. A very, very strongly connected group. They look forward to being together for those 4 nights all year long. And when Jack passed away, a bunch of them were at his funeral, his memorial service, and they still text me. They're still checking up on me, these young people who have ventilators, and some of them are using the eye gaze that Jack uses to communicate, and they're saying, hey, Dr. Freedman, are you okay? We want to make sure you're okay. They're checking up on me 3 years later. Gift of connection. And finally, rare disease offers us the gift of love. It teaches us all what love really is. When Jack was little, some of my friends called him Professor Love. Our situations are challenging, they're difficult, but rare disease, neuromuscular disease, teaches us what love really is. As I think back, I'm going to wrap up now. Those are my 10 lessons, and as I wrap up and I reflect on my journey with my own son, looking back on his 26 years, I feel so much more gratitude than sadness. And he taught me just so much and made a great impression on the people whose path he crossed. And as I accompany other families on their journeys from fear to hope to love, my wish for all of us who face these very real challenges is to find our way from fear to hope to love. And as we all face these very profound challenges that come with a rare disease, we should also celebrate the rare gifts that we bring to the world, those gifts of perspective and compassion and resilience and creativity and connection and love, and so many more. And may we all move forward with our lives with the extraordinary grace and dignity I've seen in so many patients and families around this country and other countries too. I thank you for the privilege of joining your community this weekend. Honored to be here, and I hope that the lessons that I've learned and shared with you are helpful as you move on in your journeys. Whether you're here in Las Vegas with us or at home watching from wherever you may be, I wish you a wonderful weekend. Appreciate every moment and enjoy each other. Have a good day.